Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week we sneak up on each other with our ideas and we surprise each other with how great they are. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we're here to surprise you with a story. So should I do the synopsis as Reed silences his phone?
Yes.
Great. So we are 3 stories in. I think this will be the 4th. No, this will be the 3rd. So yeah, this is 3 stories in to Earth is a Factory Farm. And here's the scenario. It's 2125, about 100 years ago. Aliens came to Earth and sort of seemed to solve all of our economic problems. They did this with advanced technology and with sort of overwhelming us with all of these crazy options we had no idea existed. Move forward 100 years, and we're starting to see, well, those who have eyes are starting to see that they have essentially turned Earth into a factory farm, right? The most common and the largest export that we export off planet is beef and mushrooms. That's it. They have forced terraformed large portions of the Earth in order to grow beef and mushrooms. They have destroyed large portions of flora and fauna in order to produce more beef and mushrooms. And those who aren't sort of wrapped up in the idea of like being part of the bigger struggle, which is what they're kind of selling us on now, really just kind of want our trees back and some variety, because all that we farm is beef and mushrooms, and therefore all that we eat is beef and mushrooms, and we get all the bad cuts. So that's the history. The magic system is called the Green. It's attached to the elves, which are a sort of race of people who are connected to all that is living. And we later discovered that they were sort of sent to Earth, or as part of their journey through the universe, they go to planets and sort of support the growing flora and fauna and help it to flourish. And they are on the Earth, and they are enemies with this new alien race that has since come. And the Green, if I understand it, is sort of a power, it's like the appreciation on the love of those things that are green and growing.
Right.
And they have produced the seed, which is like an engine. It's like a terraforming engine that you can put, and it has like the DNA encodes of a planet's worth of plants and can sort of over time restore the world or change the world. The prophecy is a series of, 14, Seth?
Yeah.
14 small pebbles, marbles given to this family by a crazy kook who said that if you put them all together, they'll create like the greatest weapon. And then he runs out and gets hit by a car. The people are kind of terrified by this. I would say that this happens after the aliens have come. And it's sort of one of those things that it's like, could it be true? Could it not? And parts of the family have divided up the marbles and have kind of grown in power over the 100 years because they're not quite sure if it's real or not, but then none of them want to risk it possibly being real and them creating a super weapon. The hero's name is Monty. He is a gardener. He's been tasked by the elves to take the seed and either escape, I would think we've figured it out yet, or travel somewhere and kind of replant the seed, once everything else has been taken care of. And I forgot who the reoccurring character was.
Inspector Clarence, the PI from it was the story where he comes up in the beginning scene where he says, there's a storm coming.
Right. Do you remember what the episode was called?
The Gathering Storm, I think.
Okay, that was a couple of months ago.
Like last December or sometime
like
that.
Yeah. So he's kind of this private eye who goes around. Maybe this is his beginnings, or maybe this is later on. I don't know how he is
Yeah, I had it in my mind that this was later on.
Okay.
And he happens to be alive during this time, the 100 years down the road, and he is an investigator, and he was contracted by representatives of the aliens actually to find out, people that there's been some kind of low level resistance.
Right.
And the things that the elves do, it's like their equipment, there'll be big operations and they'll have equipment failures that are seemingly inexplicable. There'll be not overt, not the magic isn't fireballs, and things exploding, but rather subtle like the earth literally resisting their efforts to change everything.
Right. So he's just basically sent in to figure out what's up with it.
Right. They've reestablished the thing from that gathering storm. There was the economic system was based on like a system of social credit, and it was like I think it was skeletons in the closet is the idea that if you had people would use blackmail to get compliance, and it was
right,
that kind of thing, and this. Inspector Clarence was kind of gifted in digging up the dirt on anyone who wasn't, down with the program, so to speak.
Right. And then there was a famous person, and I've also forgotten what he was.
Thomas, and I don't remember what. Could you say, Seth, again, what he was up to?
He had kind of a voice on the kind of the public stage, so just about everybody knows who he is. He's not like on a high level of government, but he writes a lot of books that kind of inspire people to take resistance against what's happening,
right,
without necessarily, let's say, being put in prison for inciting the rabble rousing.
Right.
But it was a prominent figure, and yes, is definitely in on getting the masses to kind of see what's going on. And
great.
Yeah.
So what story elements did you guys have?
I have unique artifact.
I have happy ending.
And I have goal. Should I say the goal?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, so the goal is to either escape the Earth with the seed, or to get enough people to drive the aliens off for long enough that the seed can take root, and inside of it are defenses to help change the atmosphere so that the aliens won't want to come back.
So
I think
that fits really well with part of my happy ending.
That's good. So
if you want to hear that now and we can work towards that, or if you want me to save it to the
end. Oh
yeah,
I'll hear it now. Are you going to decide which one they go to?
Yeah. So one of the things you said as an option plays right into part of what the happy ending would be.
All right, let's hear it.
So the marbles that were dropped off, they are kind of a weapon. They do end up putting them together, and by assembling them, it recreates a impenetrable firmament on the earth.
Oh, interesting.
So then tied with the seed, it basically, whatever happens, they fight, they push most of the aliens off. Maybe some of them stay as now part of a new, let's say, race or, something here. Those that, were culpable enough to stay or happen to stay. Or couldn't get off, but then it does make a like a shield that can't be accessed.
Right. Okay.
Which then that would give more of a greenhouse effect back to the earth.
Right.
Which would then correlate with using that seed to reseed, all that is green and good.
Cool.
That's kind of interesting. Well, my my unique artifact falls right in line with that. Clarence was given a directive to investigate these clans surrounding the prophecy, because they recognize that here might be a center of powerful resistance that's kind of against what the flow of what we want to establish here, a nice, comfortable, orderly new world order, so to speak, just having everybody slavishly provide us what we want. And so they hire Clarence, and he, of course, is always been somewhat of a maverick. He was always quick to, like back in the Gathering Storm, he knew something was up, and he has got a system of ethics that these aliens wouldn't understand. They understand graft and corruption and pressure and influence and all that kind of thing. But Clarence isn't altogether sure. Although he is kind of a hired gun, and he's actually on the payroll, and he goes and he finds, he's digging around and goes to one of the old homesteads of one of the founding clans of founding families of this clan, the 14 clans, and he digging around in a basement finds a box of old stuff, and he finds like a stack of these metal plates. It's kind of like platinum, and they're etchings. So it's like pages of a book, but I mean it's really permanent. And what it is the schematics on how to assemble and operate the device if you've got all 14 marbles. And so this kind of fun, it just falls, and he's led to it by the dream journal. That was something that you mentioned, Seth, back in the prophecy. And so then I guess that just falls right into place with what you're talking about. That they realize that this weapon, that they thought it was a weapon, but then this is specific. It's laid out, and that's what this artifact, this stack of plates. It's like a book where the paper is made out of etched sheets of metal.
My thought is that so what's been happening is, this is going to sound kind of weird and gross, but as soon as the aliens arrive, they represent themselves as they're a unique linchpin key factor into this giant federation of aliens.
Right.
Which is their physiology and their biology and their genetic makeup allows them to adapt to, specifically for profligating and multiplying with any race that exists.
Ooh, yeah.
So they begin the process of assimilating humanity into their genetic system, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird, and so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but their goal is for homogenization, right? Because they connect all other aliens together through their race. Their goal is just one mono race.
Right.
One super. And so they basically go around picking and choosing different races to become a part of. And one of the reasons why they have green blindness is because they've never been able to assimilate or find or get the genetic material from elves.
Right.
So it's like a really unique sort of blank space for them. So during this happy ending, when the environment changes or begins its change, and the ships have left and the firmament is locked, the only thing that's left on the planet for the people to fight is these sort of half humans, half aliens, who have assimilated, who, because they're half and half, are a sort of assimilated enough in order to survive in the new environment that's being created with the seed protected by the firmament. But the other aliens who are just pure alien just die in the new environment. And that's one of the things, that's one of these. So how I kind of view the story going is that first they just encounter human police officers and army men who are all on the alien side, and they're really hard to defeat because they're humans. And then they encounter some of these half alien people who are all super soldiers and crazy, and they're really hard to defeat, but we figure it out. And then we encounter the actual aliens, and they're surprisingly easy to defeat because they all have green blindness and they're allergic to pollen and stuff like that, because pollen gets into their system and their body has no way of dealing with it, and therefore it clogs their lungs, and then they just die because their body is incapable of recognizing it because it's green.
Do you remember the movie Signs?
Yeah, that's kind of
they couldn't get they couldn't stand actual contact with liquid water.
Yeah, I was thinking that, or War of the Worlds.
Yeah,
where the Earth biologically just rejected the aliens. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. So they've been kind of forced to create these half breeds, which are the most dangerous part of it.
Right.
So that by our happy ending, it's a happy, victorious ending. Maybe, I don't know where the seed is going to go. I'm trying to think of different places, which would be really crazy for it to go. I've heard a couple people who are really spiritual tell me that there's a lot of powerful creation energy in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Okay.
So it could go there. It could go to the Mariana Trench, right? It could go to the rainforest, the Amazon. It could go to the Fertile Crescent. It could go to Stonehenge. It could go to the taiga in Russia. It's choose a place where it would be difficult to get to, but would make sense for some sort of reset thing, you know?
Right.
So do you have any ideas, Reed?
I was when you started in your list, I was thinking of the Sahara, the Eye of the Sahara. You know,
Oh, yeah.
which is like you know, there is a lot of genetic material under the sand of when it was lush and
Right.
green and all that, and I just thought that you know that would be like kind of a stealth position to start it, you know?
Absolutely. That could work. You know, maybe the you know how like there's a bunch of pyramids that are all lined up?
Right.
Maybe the pyramid of 14 stones has to go in line with those.
Right. Like there's that big Inca pyramid in the what do you call the Andes? And it's like way up high, and it's if you drew lines, it would like completely like intersect geometrically perfectly with the Great Pyramid at Giza, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
All that kind of stuff.
And all this goes to show that all of these things were sort of these things were like supposed to be happening, you know? These things were like supposed to be happening. Maybe this was a thing that happened like a long time ago, you know?
Yeah.
Like the original firmament.
Yeah, cool.
So, and then, you know, Monty goes on this mission, and I imagine he meets up with the famous person, finds out about him, and commissions some people to go with him, you know, specialists, botanists,
Yeah.
people like that. And I have this kind of picture that like they listen to this famous person on the radio every night.
Yeah.
As the famous person gets updates on Monty's mission, the famous person starts to spin a tale, a wild yarn, an absolute total fiction, by the way, of a group of people working and fighting, you know, sort of letting the whole world know that something is happening.
Right.
You know, and then the seed gets planted. The group splits off at some point in time, because I imagine that the family is working with the famous person and Monty at this point.
Right.
Right. And they set up the triangle because they have to be, it has to be planted for a little bit so that it starts to develop and, you know, change the atmosphere. But then the triangle gets set up, the firmament gets locked down. Those things that can't escape do escape. But then we have what's left, which is cleanup of those weird, strange loyalists, humans who refuse to believe that humanity is enough, and the brainwashed half-breeds. Maybe who some of them also are like, I don't want this. You know, you can call them all brainwashed, but, you know, they're still half human, so it's not like they are just evil because they're alive.
Right.
But Seth, do you have any other interesting things to add to that?
I mean, one thing that popped to mind, if the seed has to go to a certain place, I'm half in mind to think that, just to add in like a, you know, kind of like a fun little tidbit, but the pyramid thing, perhaps that has to go to like an old, maybe there's like an old temple in Constantinople, which I think is in Istanbul now.
Yeah.
But Constantinople was like the place on the cusp that, you know, a lot of people wanted because it was, you know, strategically important, but it's also kind of in that area. But then why, you know, that, you know, historically would have been a contested place. I don't know. It's just something that popped into my head is like, if they split, you know, that would be a different place that, you know, perhaps, you know, they've got to get, you know, the marble thing to project from.
Right.
I don't know. That was the only other thing that popped into my mind, but.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I think this is kind of a fun book, kind of a fun story. If you guys like this story or book, let us know. Send us an email. Send us a Snapchat. We don't have Snapchat. Send us a Twitter. Tell us how much you liked it or not. Tell us what we could have changed or not. Our email address is waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @getsbettercast. If you have some cool ideas, feel free to tell them to us. If you want us to just stop, I would say just wait. It gets better.